Good evening, my fellow citizens.
Welcome to Tuesdays Live. How's everybody doing tonight? Mark here. I am the co-host of Tuesdays Live tonight and every Tuesday night. Well, just about every Tuesday night. If you tried to tune in last week, you would have noticed we weren't there. Well, that's because our guest had to back out last minute, and we do apologize for that. But we are back again tonight, and we got a great guest lined up for you from across the pond. But we'll get there in just a moment. Let me remind everybody, we are an interactive show. What that means is pretty simple. We like to interact with you, the audience, and the way to do so is to get onto Twitter and give us a mention at AllIndie, ALLINDIE. If you give us a mention there, we'll give you a shout out right here on the air for all the world to hear and see, because we're going to show that tweet right there at the bottom of the screen. We know that we normally do have a phone number to hand out to you for calling in. However, we are not able to accept calls tonight. So make sure if you have any questions or comments that you do send them out on the Twitter feed. That way we can get that on here, and our guests will be able to answer any questions you might have as well. What else? I think that's it for now. Let me go ahead and introduce to you my partner in crime, joining us from Illinois, the middle of the state, like a little dot of a town, city, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Rich Wildman. Hey, Rich, you there, Rich? Earth to Rich.
You know, Mark, I am here, and I got to tell you,
There you are.
the great thing about living in Paris is that you don't have to put up with tourists or anything like that. No matter what the name of the town is, we just don't have to worry about that. Great works of art, crime, anything, none of that. Not here. So, but I'll tell you, the county fair starts next week.
The county, is that held in Paris?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so you're going to be like,
the tour de force of the county fair. The thing that draws the most people is the demolition derby.
Okay, then. The demolition derby. You're going to have to, are you going to that? You going to go check it out?
No, I will not be here then. Well, I will be here, but I won't be there at the derby itself. I refuse, they'll mistake my car for one of the competing vehicles, and that would not be good.
You'll be out on your boat fishing instead, right?
Yeah, I'll be doing something like that, yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, everything good on your end over there?
Everything is perfectly fine, and nothing could be finer than the sun in Carolina in the morning. But I'll tell you, one thing that will be finer is everything that has to do with the guys and gals over at the Indie Music Bus. Now, if you're not familiar, and I know, Mark, you're familiar with the Indie Music Bus, right?
Well, just a tad. You only talk about it every week.
Well, it's one of the things I really enjoy talking about. And besides, Walt is the man, and he deserves all the credit. Everything they do at the Indie Music Bus, they do for indie artists, and also, when you really think about it, they do it for bloggers, they do it for indie radio stations, whether you're terrestrial or internet. Anybody out there that works in the indie world needs to hook up with the Indie Music Bus. That's all there is to it. And if you're not hooked up with them, you're really missing out. If you're an artist, you want to get your name out there a little bit more, hook up with bloggers, review sites, things like that. Indie Music Bus is the only place to do it, the only place to be. Here's a little bit more about the Indie Music Bus from the
Wow. Yeah. I think Rich had a little bit too much to drink tonight, folks. I do apologize.
It's not it's not drink. It's just that there's been a lot going on. Right before the show, by the way, nobody knows this except us three sitting here. Right before the show, like 2 minutes before the show, we had a computer crash and had to reboot everything. So hopefully everything's working again. And yeah, it's been stressful here.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. It's making your hair fall out.
You worked all day on that one, didn't you, Mark?
Well, I got to come up with some stuff. I mean, I can't be the brunt of all the abuse that comes, in this show. So.
Why not? Why not? Be the bigger man, Mark. Be the bigger man.
I am bigger.
Yeah. See?
All right. Oh my goodness. Where that could go. All right. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, just so you know, Rich. Right. I don't know if that's out the air, but all right, let's go ahead and introduce our guest for the evening. Joining us from all the way from Dublin, Ireland. He's here to talk about Guinness and Bangers and Mash and haggis. Yes, definitely we have to talk about haggis. and maybe we'll talk about his music if we get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert O'Connor. Hey, Robert, how are you today?
What's up? I really hope that I wasn't booked for any of those reasons, because I haven't got anything to say about any of those topics. I didn't even know what some of them were. I knew what Guinness was, but I don't know what haggis is.
You know what? I think it's some kind of, isn't haggis like some kind of sheep or lamb or something? I don't even know what it is.
Sounds like a fish. I want to say it's a fish, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know. All I remember is all I know about haggis is there was an episode on Seinfeld, and Seinfeld was at someone's house eating dinner, and she made haggis, and he spent the entire time pretending.
The problem, Robert, is Mark's getting his countries mixed up. See, he's from the U.S.
Right, he's thinking about Scotland, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's thinking about Scotland.
Exactly.
It's just everybody. That's why I don't know anything about it.
I thought it was UK in general. I didn't know that it was limited.
No, it's not UK.
All right, so
it's
you have to wear
kind of like a detached piece that would fit quite nicely into the UK, but it's drifted off. It's not in the UK.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so you have to wear a kilt to know anything about haggis then. All right, no problem.
Right.
Let's talk about Guinness then.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, beer is my favorite subject. I mean, do you drink it? Do you drink Guinness?
Sometimes, not often. My dad drinks it more than I do. I drink it if I'm at. Sometimes, if you're at the rugby matches or something like that, they have a sponsor, like a beer sponsor, so you can either only have Carlsberg or Guinness, and I don't like Carlsberg at all, so it would be Guinness that I would have in that case. But no, it wouldn't be my preference or my choice of beer. I would prefer, actually, I like quite a few of the Polish beers, and a lot of the new craft beers that have come out. I like to just try them, and I'm not necessarily loyal to any particular brand. But and then just the generic American beers as well. I have absolutely no problem putting those away.
Putting them away. I like how you put how you. Oh man! So I've been, I reviewed your resume, your biography, I should say, a little bit before the show here. Yeah, no, not your resume. And this is a job interview. Actually, you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't wear appropriate clothing for a job interview.
No, well, that's all right. These days you can go in shorts to job interviews anyway, right? I mean, come on. At least here in Florida,
I'm wearing shorts, so yeah, apparently.
All right. Well, there you go. Then you're hired. That's all you needed. Okay. So your debut album was released a decade ago, 10 years now.
Yeah, 2008, yeah, and actually, that's crazy to think of it that way. and it was ready a year before that, and my first single from that project came out in November 2006. So like over a year before that. So it's a crazy long time ago. It's hard to even fathom that now at this point.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was wondering how you felt. Well,
Yeah,
I want to say something. I want to say something that's very important here. You know, and that look was because a decade ago, you know, in less than a decade, you'll be eligible for the Rock Hall of Fame then.
I know, but I'm going to have to put out a lot more than I've put out in the last decade if I'm eligible for any Hall of Fame. And that is, you know, I think I've done a lot in the last decade that has been outside of the industry and really industry hopped way too much. And my advice, actually, not that they asked for it, to other artists and to younger artists would be to actually stick with it and to focus and to not be so sidetracked or give up too easily, because it is a case that you can kind of spread yourself too thin, and the years fly by and you're trying so many different things. And I know in some ways that's what life is about as well. But I think if you stick with one thing and really be as good as you can at that and push as hard as you can, it's a much better thing, even if it seems like it's against all odds.
If there's any consolation, you are already eligible for the Tuesdays Live Hall of Fame.
Perfect. And I've only been a guest for the last 10 minutes.
I know. Well, you needed to last 30 seconds. You got that. You're down. All right. You're good to go.
And I've already gone off on one tangent, one rant.
That's, you know what? That's what the show's about. We should change our name from Tuesdays Live to, you know, that'll be perfect. So now your debut album, I see here, Universal was your distributor. But then you say, for all intents and purposes, you're an independent artist. What was your arrangement like that with them?
My arrangement was very odd because how it all came about was I was signed to a label in London called Matchbox Recordings, and they were like a small indie label, but they were quite, I suppose, reputable. And prior to that, I'd been with an Irish label, which was a disaster. So I decided never to work with an Irish label again. So I went with the UK, and they had put out my first single in November 2006, and then they allowed me to just go off and record and write for a few months. And I did that. And then when the album was ready, we were about 3 weeks away from release. And somebody at Universal heard the record, or heard one of the singles. I think heard the proposed single that was going to lead the record. I think she was a sister of somebody that worked in Matchbox Recordings, and she worked in Universal. And it was that simple. She said, you know, they have X amount of records that they distribute per year that are not on their full marketing, you know, that they don't have a huge budget for, but that they distribute anyway. It's just the way they do things. It's kind of a lower tier, I suppose. They don't have as much investment. You've already made the product. They put it out, they put their name on it. And they also, like, it did have certain benefits in the sense that at a time when record shops were much more prominent and they had listening posts and they had promo, you know, posters and stuff like that. So all of that happened. Whereas had it been an independent release at the time, none of that would have happened. It would have been a much less visible release.
Sure, but now, did you sell? Did the album sell?
No, it didn't.
I mean, really?
It was, you know, it was really, really weird time because when I was putting out the album, and I had, you know, very little control over the release aspect of things, because it was a time when, you know, we didn't have, I suppose, all the technology we have now, and we didn't have access to all of that. So I had to really place my trust in a lot of other people. And when I say other people, I mean publicists. I didn't have a manager as such. I had an A&R guy, I had a publicist, I had the label themselves, the guy from the label. And I was extremely hands-on, to the point as much as I could be, in that I was calling and emailing every day, and I was very much in the loop. I wasn't, you know, call me when it's out, or, you know, whatever. I was extremely involved as much as I could be, but I still couldn't be in the driver's seat as such. And the publicist who was looking after it, I was extremely frustrated with, because I don't feel like we were all on the same page. And there were numerous issues throughout the whole course of that release, which makes me really happy to be able to actually take the wheel myself these days.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's not good that you had these issues, but on the other hand, it was a learning experience, and you learned what not to
Definitely.
do, and you learned that it's better to be independent sometimes and do stuff the way you want to do it. So that's a good
absolutely. And you know what? Before I even got to that point of releasing the album, I'd had the worst. Like I said, it was with an Irish label; they no longer exist, and I'd had the worst experience I've ever had, because they kind of, I suppose, in industry terms, bottom drawered me. So they wouldn't. I recorded the single. They were all over it. They wanted to release it. We had plans in place. We launched gigs, and then they decided, no, we're putting it back, and they kept putting it back, and let's say from October to November to January, and eventually they wouldn't release the single, but they wouldn't let me out of my contract. And so, that was my worst nightmare. I hadn't even started my career, and I promoted the single, and then for it not to come out was massively embarrassing. So it was, I think it was over a year after that I actually finally got to release everything via the UK label. But it was a sham, and of course it reflects on the artist rather than the label that nobody knows.
Yeah, sure. Well, that part is over, right? And you're not involved with them at all anymore, I assume.
Not remotely. I completely sold them out.
Oh, good, very good. Yeah. All right. Well, look, let's go ahead and play your first song of the evening. We're right about that time now, and the name of that song is called "Older." And what we'd like for our artists or for our guests is to tell us a little bit about the song and how it came to be, what it's about, whatever you care to share, and then we'll go ahead and play.
So actually, this was the last song that I wrote for my Resistance EP that came out in 2012. I was sitting with two guys that were in my studio band at the time, and we thought we were kind of had everything done. And then I said, I feel like there's one more for this EP, and I think I felt quite strongly that it was going to be a kind of a follow-up to another track on the EP. It was going to be about the same thing, but a couple of years later. And it's a very reflective track. And it ended up being the first single on the project. And I find since that time, I always find the last thing that I do for a project ends up being the thing that leads that project, which is interesting.
All right. Well, let's let the audience take a listen then. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert O'Connor, the name of the song is Older, right here on Tuesdays Live. Take it away, Rich.
But since you've been gone, I can't seem to start over.
Hey, Robert, my wife has a question. She wants to know if that, if behind you on the wall, is that a quilt or a poster?
It's a canvas painting. This one right here.
I can't
canvas. Oh, you can. Okay, it's a canvas painting, and I bought it. This is not my apartment, but I did buy that canvas painting.
You bought the canvas. You have good taste. She's always looking for designs.
Oh wow. Okay.
All right, we
Yeah, I
got
like that kind of geometric.
well, 1 minute left.
All right.
Come
I
back.
heard little bits of the song, kind of.
Pardon? Well, you should be hearing a little bit of music.
Yeah, I heard it. But obviously, it's not playing like that. In reality, it's playing properly. I guess.
Oh yeah, it's just playing much louder. Yeah. I just didn't want to blast it out.
Voice is going out.
Software last week.
Friends tell me it's been too long and I know I'm getting older. But what's the point of moving on when all I want is to run right back? What's the point of moving on when all I want is to run right back to you?
some of the voice was still going out to air over the music, and I do apologize for that. We have it fixed. It won't happen again. Otherwise, I'm going to take a special trip over to Paris, Illinois, and kick Rich in the knee. So,
Yeah, you know, I gotta admit there are some issues we're experiencing. I don't know what the cause of them are, and it's just maybe because Friday the 13th was last week. I don't know, but I'm looking at this thing, and it is just a bizarre kind of things going on. It must be that time of the year. I'm not sure.
it's the ghost of Paris come to haunt you.
Could be.
Yeah, I can hear I can hear a little bit of haziness in your mic, actually.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation, and like I say, I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but we'll keep an eye on it and try and make sure that we have it under control.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere, Rich, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to you and let you ask some of the questions for a bit.
All right. I do have a couple of questions, by the way, Robert. We sat and we talked yesterday for a little bit, and we also talked today a little bit before the show. But you, my friend, are a very, very busy man. Apparently, you talk and talk and talk all day long because you earlier did a radio interview with the guys and gals over at Together FM in Dublin, if I'm not mistaken.
You're absolutely right. I actually take promo really seriously, and particularly this time, I said if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, to the best of my abilities, and with the limited budget that I have and the limited resources that I have. I'm not going to focus on the things that I don't have with this project. I'm going to focus on creative ways to get around those issues and try to just get myself out there as much as possible, and not even just for this particular single, but just for the slow build of my music and my presence in online and in people's lives in general, I guess. Enrich their lives with my presence.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as an indie artist, you got to be serious about what you're doing. You got to be willing to put the work in, no matter how long it takes. And we really appreciate you being up as late as you are now. I know it's well after midnight where you're at, and so let me ask you a little bit about this, the whole indie scene in general, because we have artists that are on from around the world. And one of the things that I'm always interested in, and I know a lot of other people are too, is what is the indie scene like in Ireland? I'm sure you don't limit yourself to just one location or one spot. You try and get out as much as you can, get around as much as you can, and play wherever you can. So what's it like over there in Ireland?
So I can speak mostly for Dublin as opposed to for all of Ireland, because I'm not really a traveling, gigging musician. Not this time around anyway. The last time that I made a release, I was in college, and so I definitely wasn't traveling then either. I was playing gigs in my hometown and doing as much promo as I could. In Dublin, I didn't actually travel at all, much except for when I was supporting, if a good support slot came up, I would do it. But the big differences that I noticed between the last time around and this time in terms of the local music industry here is that before there were a lot of promoters who kind of had the city on lockdown, where you would essentially be the promoter because you'd be the one going around selling tickets, which you had bought from the promoter, and you would be selling them, and you would be, promoting through word of mouth or through your friends or family and their friends and families, and then the promoter sat back and took all the cash, and you got 15 minutes or 20 minutes on a gig that was maybe not the best gig for you or in the most suitable lineup. Like there's been times that I've gone on stage and before me there's a metal band, and the audience, if they wanted to see the metal band, not saying people can't have varied taste in music, but generally speaking, if you've got an audience at a metal or a heavy rock gig or something like that, they're not going to want to see some guy, some singer-songwriter or some country guy come on right after, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just think it being very much about money.
Yeah, I was at a concert once, a Blue Oyster Cult concert, and they had a comic come on to open. So yeah, I understand
Right.
exactly.
You see that
what
I kind of understand that to a point, and sometimes like variety is nice, but definitely when it just doesn't feel cohesive. But the other thing, I suppose, the industry here now at the moment, and I'm sure that some of that still does happen. I've heard of that happening as well, but I think to a lesser extent, and I think we're a lot more knowledgeable now because of maybe because we're in groups online, and we have Facebook, and rumors or word spreads quickly if there's a dodgy promoter out there who's profiting off acts, and they're not benefiting from it, I suppose. So yeah, we're all just a little bit more enlightened, I think.
And so what about your recording process? Now, we talk to artists, everybody from the guys and gals who go to the studios and record everything in a studio. We've got people we've talked to that have home studios. Some people even record in their bedrooms. How is your recording process? What is the whole process you go through when you put together a new track?
Yeah, I'm not a bedroom recording artist. I think that's great if you have enough knowledge, I suppose, to do it all from your laptop and a mic. That's incredible. I completely respect anybody who does that, but I do actually love the creative process of being with a producer and that relationship and that kind of being able to remove yourself from home and your own environment and the comfort of that. Being somewhere strange, I think, is huge for me for the creative process. Not necessarily for the writing of a song, but to be able to actually just deliver the performance, I think, end of things. And this time I worked in a studio in County Meath in Ireland, which is rural, is countryside. And it was nice to get out of Dublin. Previously, I've always worked in Dublin studios, and it's been kind of, I suppose, a little bit more manic, and there's a lot more, you might have numerous rooms in the same studio building where different artists are doing different things and songwriting groups. And this time it was extremely tranquil. I was kind of in the middle of nowhere. There were 3 of us involved. There was myself, Stuart Gray, the main producer on the project, and then Steve Hogan, who's a drummer, and he also co-produced the record. And the reason he was on there was because he was the person that I went to, one of the last people I went to actually when I was going to do this project, because I'd met with lots of new producers and I didn't actually like any of them. I didn't bond with any of them, and so I thought I'm going to go back to the roots, I suppose. And he introduced me then to Stuart, so we found a way to have something old, something new, and me in the middle of it, and create something that was.
Were you wearing something blue? I gotta ask.
Was I? No, I don't think I was. I think it was towards Christmas, so I was kind of more in my reds and my golds.
All right. Well, I had to. You got the Instagram people out there, and you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
All right. Now, one thing you and I. Yeah. One thing you and I spoke about yesterday. I've got to bring this up, and I'm sorry if it embarrasses you, but has anyone ever told you?
I know what's coming.
Has anyone ever told you you look remarkably like Dominic Cooper?
No, except for yesterday with you. But what people have told me before is that I look like the Family Guy creator, Seth MacFarlane. And I didn't see that one either. But then, certain shots you'll see it, or certain parts of your face, like your teeth or something. Maybe it was that. I think that people have commented on. Or if you wear your hair a different way, you'll see it maybe.
For those who don't know who Dominic Cooper is an actor who plays a gentleman called Jesse in a TV show named Preacher, and it's created after a graphic novel character, and it's a very dark, bizarre show, and I won't go into the details of it, but you look exactly like him. He's the lead actor, by the way, so it's a big plus for you.
Good. So, well, Hollywood likes familiarity, don't they? So
yeah, you should be able to get in. Come to the States and tour out in LA. You should be able to get in anywhere.
Just based on that, okay, cool. Maybe I could be even a body double. That would be okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. There wouldn't be a problem there. How tall are you? I'm not sure how tall he is, but we can find that. We'll get all the particulars. Yeah,
I don't think he's. We'll find that out. We'll Wikipedia that and get on it after the interview.
Yeah, I tell you, Mark, it's amazing how much he does look like Dominic Cooper, and I had to bring it up because,
And you know what? I didn't see it until he mentioned it, but now I do. I can see the Seth MacFarlane that he mentioned too. I can see it.
Yep. And I brought it up. It's all my fault. I didn't love that at the beginning, and then people thought, well, it just felt like a weird comparison, and I thought I wouldn't mind having his money and his success, but I don't know if I want to have his face, But then people said, "Oh, he's good looking," and I thought, "Is he though?" But anyway, it's for people to decide.
I don't know. I'm not going to judge him. But all right. Are we ready to move on, Rich? Or
yeah, we can do whatever you want. I mean, I can go on talking with Robert all night long if you want.
I know. Gosh, don't I? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the next song we're going to play is called You Found Me. So tell us a little bit about this one, Robert. Yeah, go. Take it.
I just lost what you said right there beforehand. I don't know if you were talking about the next track, was it?
Oh, yes. You Found Me. Yeah, tell us a bit about that one.
Right, okay. Right, so this one is, I suppose it's one of the most personal songs I've ever written. I wrote it about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and I knew when I wrote it that it was going to be the song that I came back with. And actually, at the time, I didn't even know that I was going to come back with new music, but it is definitely about losing your kind of way in life and losing your identity, and kind of like the way I described it is going off the deep end a little bit. It doesn't mean that you went dark side, but definitely losing track of kind of where you're supposed to be. And the verses are about that, and there's a lot of kind of metaphors in there that you'll hear. And then the chorus is much more obvious and actually optimistic and upbeat, because the chorus describes the moment where someone else, usually a stranger for me, has kind of held a mirror up and said, do you like where you're going or where this is going? And it kind of, the chorus is definitely about having that realization and snapping out of it.
Wow. Okay, that sounds very interesting. Before I introduce the song, I meant to do this earlier. A quick shout out to Ghostly Beard, who's out there watching the show. He was a gosh,
who is that?
Thing? That was Ghostly Beard. Put it back up, Rich. Put it back up again.
Now we'll play the song here in a second. If you want to see Ghostly Beard, I'm not sure anybody wants to see that, really, though.
Oh my God, that's him to a T. He looks exactly like that. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, woo, You Found Me by Robert O'Connor right here on Tuesdays Live. Take it, Rich.
Feels like I've been deep underground, buried under the sea. I wasn't safe, wasn't sound. I didn't know I was drifting away, slowly moving beyond. I was going astray. Felt like I had taken a pill, it took the edge of my life. I guess I did my fill, and I was dumbed down. Guess I blended that way. Try to make it in this new society. Got me quickly back in the zone. I was out of my body, felt like I was underground, feeling comfortably numb. Been this way for a while, and I tried on different lives for size. Never feeling fulfilled, never satisfied. Yeah, you found me when I was going under. Yeah, you woke me up. Yeah, you found me when I was going under. Yeah, you woke me up from the summer.
That was "You Found Me" by Robert O'Connor right here on Tuesdays Live. Another good tune.
That was great.
Yeah. Even if you say so yourself.
I enjoyed that.
Wow, what a tune. Wow.
Right.
Yes, sorry. Rich, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say we were debating again. If you watch this show a lot, you know we have these ongoing debates about where the backing video when we play the songs is from, and we're trying to figure it out. If anybody out there knows or has a clue to where it might be, let us know on Twitter. We've heard Las Vegas, Dallas. Mark said he thinks he remembers Cleveland coming out at one point. So anybody have any guesses, let us know.
I can tell you
I
it's
definitely
not
think
my
I saw. I mean, Flamingo in Vegas. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely think that one intersection there is Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that.
that was the only one I recognized.
Yes, that's right. I wanted to go and talk about Stuart Gray for a second, because apparently he's the one that kind of inspired you to get back into writing again. Tell us about that whole thing.
He kind of inspired a different process, I suppose. It was Steve Hogan that took me to meet Stuart Gray, and Steve Hogan was a producer on my first album back in 2008, and I didn't work with him on my second record, and it was because I've always, each project treated it as a completely separate entity, and I always wanted to have kind of a reinvention with each one, and the same was true of this record now and these new singles. I did originally intend on working with somebody completely new and kind of trying to reinvent, and we did still reinvent, but it ended up that I went back to somebody who I'd worked with before, and that was because everyone that I met, like I was saying earlier, wasn't the right match. It just felt really awkward, and I think because I'd been away for so long as well, I wanted some level of comfort with the people that I was going to work with. And when you're in the studio and you're songwriting, or especially if you're bringing a product that you kind of consider to be a finished product, I think you need somebody there that you feel that they know your backstory a little bit, and you definitely have to feel comfortable. And Stuart made me feel that way. Steve, I mean, I could say anything to, because I already knew him for a decade, but Stuart was excellent to be around, and he made it so easy, despite the fact that he's worked with great A-list acts, and he's like a consummate professional. And actually he can be really scary at times as well, because he would shout down my earpiece, do that again but better. And then I would do it like 15 times, and then I would come out of the booth kind of feeling a little bit scared as to what was going to come at me, or feeling like that wasn't great, I don't think I performed well, and then he would say that was great, that was exactly it. And I would think, this is like a different person that I'm speaking to face than the guy who's talking down my earpiece. But I think the whole thing is he's like a bossy stage mom, kind of forcing you to give your absolute best performance. And I don't know if that always works, but definitely this time it did work, because my vocal, I went to places that I wouldn't have gone had I been left to my own devices. And You Found Me There, that chorus, I definitely wouldn't have attempted that because I always considered myself a bit more of a quiet singer. I didn't see kind of power in my voice, and he said, go for it. So I did, and I kind of did it nearly as a just to keep him pleased. I thought it's not going to happen. It's going to sound terrible. We're not going to use it. It'll end up on the cutting room floor, but fine, I'll do it.
And are you pleased with the results then after all it's said and done?
I am, and I'm extremely picky about other artists' music and about my own, and it's really hard to know when something is finished and when to let go of it and put it out there. And I'm the opposite way with lyrics and melodies. I do them really quickly, and then I never look at them again. I just get it done, because it feels nearly like a process that's not entirely in my control. But with the actual recording element of things, I kept saying to Stuart, are you sure we have enough takes of that vocal? Because I would go in and I would do a verse in full instead of doing it line by line, and I would do the full verse like 5 times, and then he would say, yeah, okay, that's cool, we've got it. And I would say, I feel like that was a warm-up. I don't feel like maybe we've got everything. Are you sure? And he would know, oh, I'm going to comp those vocals. I've got something good from every line there. We'll get it. And I definitely had to put a lot of trust into him and into his judgment, because a lot of the time I was second guessing myself, and because it had been 7 years since I was in a recording studio, even though it was 5 since I put work out there. So it felt like it felt brand new to me, and really, really daunting. And there were times within the first couple of days of being in that studio that I kind of thought, can I do this? And why am I doing this?
Well, excuse me. It's a familiar story, and usually stories like this end up positive, and it sounds to me like overall it has in your case. But just a couple of weeks ago, we had Jamie Alamorad on the show, and he had a similar situation. His producer was Gino Vanelli on his latest album, and Gino was
right.
tough on him. And
yeah, I actually watched that show. Yeah.
Oh, right. So right. So I mean, and I've heard Jamie's songs going back many years, and I can hear the difference in quality of his music and his vocals between before Gino and after Gino. And so sometimes, even though it's frustrating and you're like, God, I don't know if I like this, sometimes you got to just listen, and it comes out.
I agree.
Comes out really well.
I very rarely take too many people's opinions on board when it comes to music, but I definitely took Stuart's opinion and Steve's opinion many times, and we went to different places with these songs. Like You Found Me was a very dark, somber ballad. You can even imagine that now after hearing that kind of uplifting country rock track. And we went to one place with it, and then Christmas happened, and then we came back in on the 2nd of January, and Stuart said, what are you thinking? You've been listening to the demo. What? And he said, you're not happy, are you? And I said, I don't think this is a comeback single. It doesn't sound, it's too understated. It's too dark and kind of introverted, and I want something that's explosive and that people can sing along to, even if it has that dark message. It's got to be bright and accessible. And so we completely overhauled it, and he did. So he did take my opinion on board as well. But to answer your question probably from earlier, I am very happy with the outcome. Probably happier with this material than I have been with anything I've done before. I know artists say that all the time about their latest record, but definitely for me, this is the most, the one thing that Stuart said to me was, think about nobody else outside of this room. Let it be about what we make, the three of us here, and that it's reflective of you and what you came here to do. And that's what we did.
That's great. Now, one more question before we go on to the third song. When you went into the studio to start your whole process there, how many songs did you already have ready to go or written that you needed to and whittle it down to the ones that are on your album?
So there was no whittling down at all, because I actually had I had 2 songs. I have a folder full of songs, but I had 2 songs that I was very sure that these were the songs, because it wasn't an album we were going to do. It was a series of singles. I had
Oh.
2 songs, and the night before I went into the studio, I wrote another song, which is something as well that always happens to me. It's really annoying because then you think, oh, maybe that one's better or that one. And that new song that I wrote is for sure going to be something in the future, because I really like how urgent it was for it to come out. Like I said, it was like a special delivery because it just happened the night before, and unfortunately, it was going to be only 2 singles that we worked on during those sessions, time wise, and the time that we had allocated to work together. But we really got it done. Like, we had 2 days of vocals, 2 afternoons of vocals, a few days of like 2 days of pre-production, and then Stuart took it over doing all the kind of guitars and a synth. He played everything except for drums and percussion, which was Steve. So it was incredible, just not how quickly it can actually be achieved when you have 2 really incredibly professional people in the room who just are really tight with their approach to things. Because you can work with people sometimes who they go off for months and you're trying to chase them, and that, for me, because it had been so long this time, I felt a sense of urgency and a sense of, let's do this right now. And I literally left the studio with the single, and started getting down to business straight away. Who's going to distribute this? Getting my plan together. Certainly wasn't going to chase after labels for months. It was like, this has gone out 5 weeks from now.
Wow, that's good. Hey, take control. Why not? All right.
Oh, I've become a total control freak with this project.
And that's a good thing. That's all right. Let's go ahead then and play your 3rd song for the evening. No Second Chances. Tell us about this one, if you will, please.
So I was just saying before we came on air that this will be the first, I suppose, US play of this track. It went to radio here in Ireland about 2 weekends ago, and then tonight it had its first play in the UK. So this is kind of a cool day because it's kind of spreading its wings a little bit. No Second Chances was a song I wrote 4 years ago. It's a much more straightforward love song than You Found Me. But definitely I was thinking about a lot of bands that I listened to in the late 90s when I wrote it. I was thinking about, Savage Garden and their classic love songs. I wanted something that really hooked people in, and that really, not even for a commercial reason, but just I wanted a song that was really relatable. And I definitely wrote it from the heart in probably 10-15 minutes tops. Melody, lyrics came together. I never edited anything. I think when we went into the studio, we changed a word in the first verse because Stuart didn't like the way it sounded sonically. That was literally the only edit. I found the voice note demo that I recorded from 4 years ago on my phone there last week, and it sounds exactly the same. So I think this one, we didn't really go around the doors on this one. It was just always going to be this way.
All right. Well, cool. Let's let the audience take a listen. Ladies and gentlemen, the name of the song is No Second Chances by Robert O'Connor, right here on Tuesdays Live. Take it away, Rich.
I've got 1 foot in the bedroom, got 1 foot in the hall. You said that things had changed with us, but nothing's changed at all. I got my heart in the palm of your hand, but my mind's already gone. Down the elevator, won't be coming back for more. Now I know it's done and I know we're through, but I don't think that I cannot know you. It's just too hard to be apart. And I know you said no second chances, but it's just too hard to find romance when your heart is holding on to hope. When your heart is holding on to hope. I sit at home alone at night, close the blinds, I dim the lights. I listen to my favorite songs and wonder, how did we go so far wrong? If there's a chance we could start again, it's just too hard to find romance when your heart is holding on to hope. When your heart is holding on to hope. When your heart is holding on to hope.
There was no second chances on Tuesdays Live. Robert O'Connor, my man, you got a driving song there, buddy.
Yeah, do you know what? That song makes me nervous because I've held on to it for 4 years and I kept avoiding putting it out. Even I didn't put it out as the first single because I think I had a sense of whenever I hear it, even there now, I just think it sounds like a song that people are going to respond to, and I hope that is what happens because I think if that doesn't happen, it'll be quite devastating because I think it's my most probably commercial, accessible, timeless. And when I came into recording it, I said I want it to sound. Let's not jump on any bandwagons. Let's have something really, really timeless here that we can play 10 years from now, and that's still going to sound just as good.
10 years
classic.
from now, it'll instead of a driving song, it'll be a flying song because everybody will have flying cars then.
Yeah, probably flying Google cars.
All right, we got a short time left, but let's get down to business. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. We got to call some people out because, as with any indie artist out there, you're constantly working. You're submitting your music to radio stations, to reviewers, to bloggers, to everybody, anyone you can think of. And what, as an indie artist, it's got to get your goat and burn your tablecloth when these guys don't respond at all. I mean, even a no would be better than no response, right?
100%. I had an email back from somebody that worked in a radio station here last week, and it was a no, and they gave me an exact reason. They said that style is not our format, but you should contact this person, and I think that they will go for it. And you should talk to country music blogs. And they said, I don't know who they are, but I know they would probably go for it as well. And that I hugely appreciated. Or even just a no, it's not for me. But I think the worst thing in general is to be ignored. And I know that these people are busy, and the bigger the station or the bigger the blog, probably the busier they are. Or maybe also sometimes the lazier they are as well, because they have a certain format that they just keep pushing, and it's the same 15 songs or, sponsored content or whatever it is. But I do see it from both sides. I see, I have friends, I've made friends through this first single even that are bloggers and that have been massively helpful and really great people. And it just so happens that, one shout out actually to Caesar from Caesar Live and Loud, and he's done premieres for me and great reviews, and all because he likes the music. But he, just like any other blogger, will get 300-400 emails a day, and I suppose it's a way of, I know they have to get through all the work, and it's a lot of work for them as well. But I guess it's troubling when you go to the bother of putting together a press kit, especially if you're doing all the work yourself and you don't have any assistance. You're putting together first, obviously, the track, artwork, press release, and a lot of these bloggers have a ton of rules. Like, you can only send it between Sunday and Monday X time, and if you're in Canada, it has to be another time. And the weirdest rules, and don't send this, don't tweet us, don't do this. It's just so many rules that it's like, it's exhausting. So by the time you eventually hit on the email, you really expect at the very least, a no if they're not into it, I think.
Yeah, and
just to be decent.
It's the least everybody can. We all get tied up and we all get busy, but a single word answer is better than nothing at all. I mean,
even though
you know,
like for me to say I'd be happy with a no is like incredible, because that just goes to show you how disillusioning it is to get nothing back, or to get
exactly.
you know, and the whole thing of we get too many emails to respond. I don't know, you know, if you can't kind of keep up, then don't do it, because I think you know, do it right, or don't do it at all.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%, you know. So, okay, let's call some people out then. Let's name some names. No, I'm just kidding. We don't want to do that if you know.
No, because I will.
Well, you know,
and then I'll be blacklisted.
Well, I won't stop you
say,
if you want to, but I will tell you that, you know, on the other side of that same coin are the people who always get back with you and do you good, whether or not they can help you or not. Like you said, you had that one station that came back and said, it's not for us, but yeah. So you got people on the other side.
What I find is that, particularly, and I've been kind of slagging off Irish DJs a little bit, but they kind of deserve it. Like, there's some that are amazing, but there's a lot of them who you'll send them an email, right, and they'll email back 2 weeks later, and they'll say, yeah, I'll try and get the track in. It'll be on the show at between 11 and 1 on Sunday night. So, you know, when no one's listening, like the graveyard show. And then you'll send your track to, like, so there was Indie Country Radio, I think it was, that I sent the last single to, and I got this really nice woman sent me an email back saying how much she liked the song and that she was going to playlist it, and then what else had I got coming up. And I thought, there, she's taking an interest. This person's here for the music. Whereas with the Irish DJ, just had this feeling of, and I'm not saying it's down to nationality, it's not, it's just we do have a certain culture, I think, of, like, had I already had a hit in another country, they would be jumping all over that bandwagon. And I spoke about this in my radio interview earlier, and everyone agreed that it's definitely a case of Irish DJs seem to need to have a project validated by another country before they are willing to take the risk of endorsing it themselves.
I think that same kind of thing happens to U.S. artists and U.S. DJs, you know, and English artists and English DJs, Spanish artists, Spanish DJs. DJs and music directors are kind of like, so what's different about it? What's new about it? What's catchy about it? What can we use to promote it with? And if you as an Irish artist were submitting here in the U.S., it might tick some boxes on the music director's sheet, because he's looking, well, this is different. This is interesting, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, I can understand it to a degree, but still, get an email out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing with magazines and with online publications is that, particularly if their kind of whole motto or is that they help, you know, local talent, or that they endorse local talent, I think if they say that and then they're playing, yes, Irish artists, but they're playing the same 4 or 5 signed to Warner's, Universal, EMI artists, that isn't supporting local talent. They might come from local, but you know, you have to do it on a lower level, I think, and it's laughable, really, to be honest.
If you're going to support one, you got to support all of them.
Right.
Yeah, or even just to have a slot there on major platforms for independent artists, or not even just independent, but for different genres, because it does tend to be like what you were saying there about having something different. It also, a lot of the time here and in the States as well, in the UK, is about if one label signs an act, let's just say like somebody like Dua Lipa, right? That's obviously becoming really successful now. The other 3 major labels that are rivals to that label are going to try to find their version of that to compete, and because they see that's making money, they want a piece of the pie. And I completely understand that it's business, but it is definitely about if you're coming out with new material, or you're going to the studio with the pure intention to try and, you know, make this happen, you definitely have to look at what's trending at the moment, I think.
Right. Well, next time you come on the show with us, I want you to have a list of names of people you want to call out, and we'll just set in the whole show. The whole show, all we'll do is call out these ne'er-do-wellers who have been slacking at their jobs.
If they're not supporting me by then, we're going to out them all.
There you go. All right, look,
Deal.
we run over. We have got to close up shop. Unfortunately, it was a good show, and Robert, we certainly appreciate you taking the time, especially so late at night over there in Dublin.
Yeah, well, look, there's more chance of me going to write a song now because it's this late, so it's a good thing.
Oh, there you go. No worries. Then we're glad to have helped. Maybe you can write a song about us.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, right. So thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thanks a million. Really enjoyed it. It's great to meet you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week we have a guest by the name of Paul DeCoster on the show, and you wanted something there, Rich?
No, I was just leaning over to whisper in your ear and tickle you on the back of the neck. Just one of those things.
See the look of horror on my face?
Yeah, I do.
All right, okay.
You're no fun at all, Mark.
Yeah, well, not that kind of fun anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So we will be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, and I know Rich wants to say.
I want to say goodnight to Carol, and I want to say goodnight to Walt, and I want to say goodnight to Mary Sue and all those guys at the Walton's farm as well.
John Boy. Good night, John Boy. Yes. And again, thanks to Robert for joining us tonight. Rich, it was great as always. Folks, we'll be back next week. Same time, same place, same station. You know where to find us, TuesdaysLive.com. And we're going to close out with a song from next week's guest. His name again is Paul DeCoster. The name of the song is Ain't the Only Way. Right here on Tuesdays Live. You all have a good night. See ya.
Underground party for people on the run. Party for people whose work is never done. Fall through the forest, fist pump in the air. You feel the passion and freedom when you're there. We met our night by this club waiting to get in. Excited 'cause it was the first time we'd been. When I looked into the windows of your soul, I saw the rest of my life with you playing a role. All the lights spin around, behold to the DJ sound. It's loud and the champagne's free. I hope to say the only way you feel about me. Yeah. Smiles arise, surrendering to the beat. Bodies concur as music guides our beats. Rhythm taps into instincts that wanna play. You know where they're hanging when night turns into day. All the lights spin around, behold to the DJ sound. It's loud when the champagne's free. I hope to say the only way you feel about me. Yeah. Fairy tales in the club, they can happen sometimes. It helps to have a gorgeous face in the right place at the right time. We know our lives are different, but the struggles are all the same. I'm also where we don't yet have a level of trust beyond playing games. Yeah, dance a while. You know the pressure we're under being on our own. Dance moves are our only clue of what we could be like when we're alone. You know now the music says all we'll say. We can hear ourselves think, and we like it that way. All the lights spin around, beholden to the DJ sound. All the lights spin around, beholden to the DJ sound. All the lights spin around, beholden to the DJ sound. All the lights spin around, beholden to the DJ sound. All the lights spin around, beholden to the DJ sound. It's flowers, champagne's free. I hope you say the only way you feel about me. Thank you very much. I'm DeCoster. This is Rich Culster on percussion. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, my fellow citizens.